Agora a gente vai ouvir nossa segunda convidada internacional que vem do Japão. Ela é a Akira Sakano, que vem da cidade de Kamikatzu. Akira, se apresenta e fala para a gente um pouco sobre o que você faz.
Hi everyone, so I'm Akira Sakano from Japan. I'm very happy and honored to be here to present about our community-based zero waste practices here in Japan. So thank you very much for joining and very nice to meet you. So I'm working as a Zero Waste Japan, which is an organization very much focused on municipal level, local community level zero waste society building. So we see zero waste is not just about like 100% recycling or like more sustainable resource management, but we see waste as a socioeconomic system failure or the design failure. So we are to reduce such failure or errors as much as possible. It's basically our mission and the vision. So we work with multiple stakeholders and different people all over the communities and different businesses and so on, so what. But we are trying to basically rebuild systems in different perspectives compared to the existing, for example, waste management system, existing resource management systems, and so on. At the same time, working in the very local scale, we are also trying to communicate that as examples or a model, which can be also interpreted or like to be worked out in the global scale, but at the same time knowing the global context of what needs to be changed as a systemic change can be also implemented as a local level to kind of create a real implementation models or the actual project basis, what needs to be happen to actually implement such project. So in the realities. So that's our kind of our concept in general. So we work with, for example, communities and local government municipal offices. At the same time, we engage businesses, both very small up to the global scale businesses, to also co-create the model in the local context. So they can also learn from the process that they can apply such to the other scales in other areas. And then we, of course, create different tools for educations as well as behavior shift or systemic shift in business or in the community levels. So with such, we have worked with different communities and local governments. So one example in my past histories are quite famous town called Kamikatzu in Tokushima Prefecture in Japan, which is very, very small community or the municipal area, but was the first town or first municipality in Japan who declared for the zero waste ambition back in 2003. This town is very well known as 45 different categories of waste segregation they have. So amazing part is that all the residents are engaged into that detailed segregation. At the same time, they take this bring your own waste to the waste collection center model for the waste collection, which actually enabled to integrate different elements of, for example, reusing system or redistributing materials towards the community members by actually having a place for resource collection. So which doesn't only limit it for the, just, waste to be brought in to be segregated, but also since people visit that location, so people also share information, they communicate, and then the waste collection center normally considered as somewhere dirty, smelly, the location people don't want to go, but it actually became a community place that people actually visit to meet other people or to get more information or to, have something new from the reused items. So such kind of like transformation for the concept or people's mindset was a big takeaway from this community model. But since Kamikatzu being a very small community in terms of the population, at the same time located in the very mountainous, remote areas, it was also difficult to kind of accelerate that scale in terms of more industrial related, or to provide a feedback of larger scale communities as a model. So that's why we also started a different project with different scale of the municipalities or the communities right now. So one case is Unnan City in Shimane Prefecture, which we started working only a few years ago. So in this community, we take bottom-up community design procedure. So we work directly with the local residents in the city, and then we engage them to kind of come up with different ideas of what they want to see in the city. And then we co-created the mutual vision of the city created by the citizens themselves, not coordinated by like municipal office, or not like top-down approach for saying this is the target. So by having such common wording and common visions for the citizens of their own, we can now use that common sentences or the visions to also guide the new project that we come up with. So right now, we also collected the ideas by the citizens to say that these kind of things we want to see in the cities, and then selected certain elements from such ideas to be consolidated into proper project that can be also in the end aligned with the policy creation procedure for the municipal government. So right now, we are working together with the citizen level projects. For example, including compostings, reallocation in the cities, or like engaging local shops to have package-free options and so on, so what. And then that is sponsored also by businesses. And then we kind of reconsolidate different stakeholders to be put into one project. So that is another type of approaching the city. At the same time, we also work with the municipal government level to create like the plans. So in this case is Obuse town in Nagano. They have recently set 2 key targets of zero carbon and zero waste at the same time. So having 2 key targets for environmental policies as a town, they can now integrate the policy strategies, of course, thinking about the waste reduction and also thinking about how they can transfer towards reduction of the carbon emissions and so on. So we have both sides of like being very specific about waste reduction strategy. At the same time, we can tackle like more holistic challenges as a whole town. So we segmented, for example, for that waste area into like household, businesses, and municipal or public buildings or the offices areas. And then we did the basic research conducted for what's the current status. At the same time, we utilize something similar as a engagement procedure of interviewing, research, and so on to different stakeholders, and then now building up different strategy for different targets. At the same time, since, of course, for the carbon reduction, different stakeholders needs to be engaged as well. So, for example, for the household-wise, people have more easier attachment as what they can do as an action for waste reduction instead of energy transition. So now we are approaching more from like waste as touch point topic, and then trying to shift that knowledge or engagement procedure towards the carbon side. But at the same time, for example, for the, let's say, municipal offices or building transition, that might be also easier to discuss about wide scope strategies from the energy field, and then maybe shifting towards the waste as a holistic strategy. So by combining different approaches, we can also illustrate different touch points for different stakeholders. So these are some of the examples that we are working on in the community or the municipal level. At the same time, by doing the community scale engagement, actually this can be accelerated or enlarged into the business area, even from the very small business scale up to the very large. So for example, one scheme that we use is the zero waste accreditation. So it was originally designed for restaurants or the cafes, very small shops. to visualize their efforts or the action for waste reduction or preventions instead of doing recycling. So preventive action is very difficult to be visualized or presented to the stakeholders, especially to the customers, because you can't visualize what's not there or what's not provided or what's not existing in the shop. But actually, by creating the proper checklist for the actions, like what they can do to reduce the weight, what they can alternate, not to use the single-use items and so on, we could also categorize different action areas, then to also present that as kind of logos of like, these are the efforts different shops are taking. And then by doing that visualizations, it was of course easier for them to communicate to the customers, but at the same time also creating that visualization as a whole community or the certain area scope. It could also incentivize shops to be slightly to be better than other shops. At the same time, we could also provide the opportunities for the shops in the similar same areas or like nearby neighbor areas to come together to actually share their practices, share their knowledge, maybe potentially looking for the touch point that they can even collaborate, being in the same areas. So that could also accelerate it into not only like restaurants or the small shops that we started with, but now we are expanding towards, for example, apparel sectors or like co-working or office sectors and so on. So now this kind of like having the guideline, having the checklist, at the same time having a communication tool to share what they're doing, and then to make it visualized as an entire effort, not only by a business, but as a community and so on, is really working in certain areas. So combine all in all, so we are really trying to engage the community level, local area, at the same time for the small shops, efforts to be also recognized or learned from each other to the larger scale businesses. And that's in different scopes moving in each directions and sharing in each directions could really accelerate zero-based work from the community level to national, global scales, and then to everyone. So thank you very much for listening, and then I hope we can discuss further for the next time. So now I appreciate and then to open for the questions.
Muito obrigada, Akira.